guys, it is Ashley from theawakenedstate.net. So today we're going to talk about the mind body up-level experiment. So today is officially day 10 on the mind body up-level experiment for me. So to just kind of give you a really brief background on what this is basically we are doing an experiment to witness our transformation. And I have conducted an experiment where over the course of 90 days, we can work with the mind-body connection to work with our magnetism, help us manifest easier, and basically create rapid shifts that are going on in the mind through our perspectives and how we take action through using the mind and the body. So basically, there's going to be an introduction video. If you haven't checked that out yet, I highly suggest checking out the introduction video if you want to join us. So just to kind of give you a mini speed version, we're basically doing 90 days, but you can do 30, 60, or 90 if you prefer, of the mind body up level experiment. This is a free series where each week I'm going to be giving you a piece of my personal progress and what I've seen, what I've discovered, some insights, some kind of behind the scenes. And then I'm going to give you a piece of education on the mind body up level experience. So each week is part of, or not each week, but just as the process evolves, we're going to basically go into each part of the process, such as intention setting and embodiment, and basically going into the planner and stuff. So let's get started. So I am officially on day 10. Now, this is the behind the scenes view of what I've been noticing, what I've been going through, some of the progress I feel like I've made and had, and inevitably what I've seen and my awareness around what's been coming up. So I am on day 10 of this process. Now, to keep myself accountable, you can see I have literally done all of the days. So I have committed to 10 days to recording what's been coming up. So what I've found is by doing this process of intention setting, rapidly looking at my doubts with moving into encouragement and following into embodiment and basically creating these rapid shifts. So what I first noticed that starting out on day 1 through 5, it was really hard. I really noticed that it was hard to stay committed to writing shit down. It was also really hard on making sure I was recording things. And it was also really hard to just kind of keep reinforcing what my daily task and daily focus was. And I feel like there was some days where, because I started around my cycle and where I was really low energy, I started to notice that because of that, I was super unproductive, and I would have a lot of moments of, well, am I in inconsistency or do I just need rest? Do I just need rest? How can I honor my inconsistency by still resting, but also doing what I say I'm going to do? And I feel like there was a lot of mind chatter on really getting this process started. And they say in the beginning that there's always kind of the resistance is the hardest within the first couple weeks, because that's when you're literally developing the habit, right? So I felt like for the first 5 days, it was really difficult just to get started and to make sure I was super consistent, because consistency is always kind of one of those things that it's hit or miss with me. So I found that what really worked was starting slow. And so when I felt like I couldn't do any movement exercises, I decided, because I feel like I didn't really have trouble with the mindset work. I've ingrained journaling into such habit where that's not really a problem for me. But where I had the trouble was doing the body rituals and making sure I stayed committed to showing up for the body rituals. So I felt like I could do the intentions, I could do the detoxing the doubt, I could do the embodiment, but once it came to really working on the body, I noticed there was some wavering where I would either not want to do it, or my ego would freak out and try to come up with all these excuses, or what would happen is I would kind of do this thing where I would settle And so what I started to do is, instead of doing nothing, I decided to create more movement. And so I decided on the days where I don't want to do the body ritual, I would instead go for a walk, or I would go shopping, or I would make sure that I'm doing some kind of movement so that I'm not just saying that I can't work out today, or I can't do this fitness ritual or whatever. And instead I'm saying, well, actually I can do some movement. I can start to do more practices of just moving my body. And because I was feeling like really crampy and awful, like I didn't really want to do like hardcore exercise. So that was like one of those things where I was just like, can I honor myself in the inconsistency, but still move forward? And can I move forward in a way where I can honor that inconsistency? And that was like really interesting because I felt like it created a shift. And so I started to notice these patterns where, as I started to move out of those 5 days, the next week started to become easier. And what I really noticed with this is now it felt like it was easier to show up and start to take those actions, because now I saw myself not take the action, but I was still basically focused on, well, these are my weekly goals, these are my weekly habits, this is what I need to focus on. And what I started to notice is by reinforcing that concept of the weekly goals, which you'll find is in the center, I noticed that because it's at the back of my mind all the time, I felt obligated and committed to do it. And because I kept reinforcing myself, it started to become more of like, okay, this needs to get done. This needs to get done. And rather than being in this space where it felt as if kind of like, well, there goes another week where I'm not going to do things. And instead, it started to reinforce a different habit. So what I noticed is the mind rituals themselves were easy for me. Where I started to slip was the body rituals, and really getting more clear on, can I commit to Pilates? How can I commit to Pilates? How many days do I need to show up for Pilates? How many days do I need to be consistent with it? And then I started to think about, okay, well, that's awesome, but what can I do besides just doing the exercises? What else could I do for my body? So I thought about, making sure I have my bath routines, and making sure I have my healthy smoothies all the time, and making sure I start focusing more on how can I reinforce the nourishment of the body. So I started to I feel like there was a shift there where I started to notice the consistency was changing and my mind was changing. And then all of a sudden I started to think really more rapidly about, okay, the first week kind of sucked, but the second week I started to stay with it. And I also got more real and practical with myself. I'm like, am I really going to do 6 days of Pilates when I'm just starting out right back again from summertime? No, probably not. So instead, I started getting more realistic with myself. And I'm like, okay, I think I can commit to at least 4 days a week. Actually, I think I can commit to 3 days a week. So let's do 3 or 4 days a week. And so I noticed there was a big shift from, well, there's just no way I'm doing this, to let's get real here. What can I do? What can I actually do differently? And so I found that the hugest shift started to occur when I started to kind of just be more realistic with myself, and also start with where I'm at today. Rather than focusing on running the marathon, I started focusing on what can I do to shift and change today to really start doing that. And I think a big part of that was moving into that embodiment piece, where it's like we're moving into the embodiment of, well, what can I shift and change right now that is in alignment if I was already that person? So being in the alignment of the person who was already doing the Pilates and already doing the consistent systems and already doing all of that, then I started to notice that there was this shift occurring where, okay, I started to think differently, and I started to take different actions. And then I started to pause and stop the habits I was currently doing. And I noticed there was a shift that occurred where I started to think differently. And I started to think about different, like almost like a bird's eye view of what I was doing. And I started to be like, okay, so if this is how my energy is, like this, then what I need to do is actually focus more on this. And so I think it's so cool how, like, by the second week, there started to become these amazing shifts because I was able to witness what wasn't working. And because it was like this moment where like it literally was like a switch flicked, because all of a sudden now I had the right ideas starting to come in on how I should do things differently. And then I started to think differently, and then I started to act differently. So I feel like I'm just dropping you into my world. So my three goals that I was working on was house renovations, consistent systems in my business instead of doing manual things. And the other thing I've been working on is my Pilates habit. So those are my 3 goals that I was working on, because I need to get back into my Pilates habit that I incorporated since summer. And then basically I was doing consistent systems in my business because I want to work on building more systems. And currently I don't have a lot of systems that are automated. So that's what I'm working on. And then obviously house renovations goes with, my money goals and stuff. So those were the 3 things that I wanted to focus on. And it's so bizarre because when I started to focus on them, I started to notice these weird shifts occurring where I started coming up with new ideas when I started to do this process, right? So the first work was kind of like the week before was hard because my energy wasn't really in it. But then once I started to play with this, and by week 2, my energy started changing. And then I noticed that I was getting more realistic with myself on how can I commit to this? What can I do differently? How can I start to work on those systems? How can I start to do this? And so on day 10, what I'm just noticing is the process really is about the shifting. And I think what happens with the mind-body connection is we're witnessing kind of this like rapid perspective shifting. Whereas before it was kind of like we get dominated by the emotional result. We kind of fall into the rabbit hole of, should I do this? Should I not do this? Should I do this? Should I not do this? And then instead what naturally occurs is it's like you're more committed to the process. And in doing that, you're starting to make things more habitual. So now you're just like, well, how can I work with myself? And I think what I've been feeling from just doing this for 10 days straight, like boom, 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 is there are moments where I don't want to do it. There are moments where there was one day where I didn't write anything down, and I just told myself, I'm just going to rest and detach and I'll continue it tomorrow. And there was moments like that. I'm being real. And there was also moments where it was just like, oh my God, why did I never think of things like that before? How come that was just so like not on my mind? Like, why didn't I think to do it that way? Like I started to notice I would have rapid changes in perspective from doing this exercise. And I don't know if it was because I was just, I've done a lot of inner work on myself, so I know how to do this system like the back of my hand. But what I found with doing it in this particular way, like the perspective shift happens so rapidly. Like it was no longer like, I was no longer in a sense of doubt anymore. It's like all of a sudden I suddenly knew what to do, and like my magnetism kind of took over and was like redirecting me. So it kind of like this whole portal energy, right? Like with the 22222, like I had like so many breakthroughs and downloads about this information. And then it was like suddenly like a windfall of like a bird's eye view perspective of what I needed to do. And that's just what I've been having happen on day 10, which is so surreal because I feel like this process is really interesting because you might not be super consistent at first, but what you'll notice is you'll start to identify what isn't working and how you need to shift it. So it's like the universe is self-correcting itself, and your job is to get into the space where you are shifting your energy to realign. And I think what's so cool about doing it in this particular way with the mind-body up level is you're creating rapid perspective shifts. And at first it might be subtle. It might be really, really minor. But if you stay with it, what I'm noticing is just on day 10, like I am way more committed. I am way more like wanting to take the action. I feel like I'm like prioritizing better. I'm also in this space where like I'm being realistic with myself. I'm like, okay, so I have this this amount of time to do this, and I have this amount of time to do this. Well, obviously I do need a system for this. And then just the other night, we were talking about what we need to renovate for the house. And it's like, these things were not happening 3 weeks ago, but now they are. And I know it's because I've been working on it. And I know it's because I've been working on myself. So while I know we could also say that, yeah, I've done a lot of inner work and I've done a lot of inner healing work, I do believe this is possible for anyone, because what it does is it's creating a rapid perspective shift. And I think there's a tremendous power in that. Okay, so today I want to talk about setting intentions the correct way, because sometimes we kind of need like a crash course on how to set a really good, potent intention. I do have an intention setting guidebook that you can download on the Awakened library. I will leave a link for that below. But basically what I want to tell you today is I want you to think about, when it comes to setting an intention, we want to get really clear with what we're asking, and we want to avoid using words such as I want, I need, I will, and instead we want to work more with the present tense. So we want to be avoiding words that are more like directed into the future. And that's the main point I really want to illustrate, is when you're setting an intention, you're setting an intention to activate a set vibration. So you don't want to be really wishy-washy, really vague, and you don't want to be focused on the in-between result. You want to be focused on the end result. So over the years, I played a lot with language and how to understand how you can really amp up your language to reinforce your manifestation. So some of the hugest ones I would suggest are, I believe and know, I am so grateful and happy now that, I already have blank, I already do blank, I already anything, using universals such as always, never, all the time, and stuff like that. And also looking into the words of, I said I believe in now. Cross that out. What's the other one? I choose to believe. I choose to believe. I choose to believe in no. I am now normalizing. Oh, and my other favorite, I am certain. I am certain. That's another good one. So those are one of the best ways that you can use the intentions. As you start with one of those prompts, and that will help you a lot. The other thing you want to consider is you don't want to be in the in-between result necessarily. You want to focus on the end result. So for instance, like take losing weight, for instance. It's a really common one. Instead of saying, I'm so grateful to lose weight, I'm so grateful to lose a lot of weight. Instead, what you would say is, I am grateful I'm so fit and healthy and energized and I look hot. So instead of focusing on, I can't wait to lose weight, you don't want to be in the in-between of losing weight. You want to focus more on what is the end result to losing weight. So it's the same concept with money. So when you don't want to focus on, I'm so grateful to pay off my debt, you instead want to focus on, actually, I am grateful and so happy I am financially secure and in overflow, or I'm so grateful and happy that I'm already in a space of financial security and abundance. You don't want to be focused on you don't want to be focused on losing weight or getting rid of the debt. That's an in-between state. You want instead the end result. So you want to avoid using terms that are in the in-between. So such as trying, figuring out, trying to be in the space where you're like, I will do this, or I intend to do this. See, that's kind of an in-between. There's a space of indecision when you say that. So instead you want to clear that up, and you want to instead use I believe in no, or I am grateful that, or I already have a healthy, fit body that's toned and amazing, for instance. So I already make I already do this. So instead, we're kind of removing the wishy-washiness from our language. And instead, we're getting really clear, really potent, and really aligned with what we actually want. Because the thing is, you don't want to lose weight, you want health, and you want to be fit and in shape, right? Makes sense. So when you think about it in terms of what else you can do for setting intentions, you may want to consider getting more specific. You may want to consider getting more measurable if you have a measurable goal in mind. You also may want to consider looking at your feelings around that intention, and you also may want to consider what are the feelings that connect to the intention itself, and looking at, well, if I do this, how would this make me feel? Because also diving into that will help you kind of reiterate that feeling and also kind of back up the magnetism of that goal, that intention, with more of a potent charge than it would if you just wrote like, I am a leader, or I am wealthy, or I am healthy. Whereas if you were to say, I am healthy, but I am super feeling energized and lit up and expansive and healthy, and I feel full of vitality, that's a totally different vibe than just, I'm healthy. So you see what I'm saying? You just got to play with this. You know, your mind and your soul already knows what to do. The other thing I want to talk on is the concept of, as you're doing this with me, I want you to consider that not every day needs to be the same intention. Not every day needs to be just boom, 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 boom. This is what I want. And instead, I invite you to kind of play with it. Really get into a space of stream of consciousness where you can allow yourself to kind of brain dump, brain spill, whatever's on your mind, whatever you're going through, whatever you need. Because that's the thing about intention setting, right? Like, we think it might just be like, I'm grateful for health, but you might actually need like beliefs that support that belief. So you might need, you know, I am only losing weight in healthy ways, or you might need like more supportive beliefs around your self-esteem. So maybe it's more like, I now walk forward in more confidence and happiness, or I support myself to be guided in more joy and focus more on my daily joys in life. So you have to consider that there's this element of, we have to look at, well, it's not just about this tiny goal, but you have to look at what is the supportive evidence of that goal. And so I invite you to also think into, not every day will be the same when you set intentions. Allow yourself to let go and allow the stream of consciousness to occur, because that will help you create the potent aligned intention that you actually need, that might be underneath all of the surface level goals and the surface level intentions that you're actually thinking. So that's a really fun way to kind of just allow yourself to let go and be in the space where you can be open to the receptive messages of higher self, higher consciousness, and allow the intentions that is actually aligned and potent for you to naturally arise through your magnetism. The other one final thing I want to say about intentions is don't be afraid to also create immaterial intentions and explore more, like, you know, I now walk forward in confidence and take action daily. I move forward with ease. I focus more, because that's the thing, right? We are so black and white with intention setting. I want you to think loose. I want you to think, what are the things that I need? Like, what are the things that will help support this intention? You know, if I need more confidence, I need to start writing beliefs on confidence. If I need more self-esteem boost, I need to write beliefs on self-esteem alongside of my goals. If I'm trying to lose weight, what are the things that I actually need surrounding losing weight that would support getting into better health and shape? Maybe it's, you know, eating smoothies more. Maybe it's, you know, having a better diet. Maybe it's picking out new food choices. Maybe it's trying new recipes. Maybe it's working on your eating habits. See what I'm saying? Like, I want you to like be in the energy of playfulness and exploration, because that's what it's all about. It's kind of like we cannot allow ourselves to fall into rigid patterns when it comes to intention setting. And so we have to more so be in the flow of life and really allow ourselves to kind of play into that point where we can discover our personal sense of alignment, which will naturally activate the magnetism that we actually need, versus kind of following into, I am healthy, I need this, I need this, I need this. Now nothing's changing. So you see what I'm saying? So that final point I really want to make is like, you have to explore the intention from the level of, if I was already that person, well, what would I do differently? Like, maybe I would have more beliefs around healthy eating. Maybe I would have more beliefs around meal plans, or we're looking into different recipes that are more supportive of my body. You know, it's the same for, I said I'm talking a lot on losing weight, but like that's because that's so common. But even if you were to do it with money, for instance, you could be like, well, I always track my money. I'm working on saving better. I'm working on, so it's not just this one thing pigeonhole. No, instead you want to expand your horizons around intention. And that's what makes intention setting so powerful, because you want to create almost the umbrella effect with your intention. Okay, that was so much to dive into. I hope you enjoyed my little progress update and this deep dive into intention setting. If you have any questions about intention setting, definitely leave them below. I would love to hear what are your own favorite intentions. Maybe you got some of your own secret language that you like to say. I would love to hear that below. Make sure you subscribe to stay tuned for our next series, and I'll see you guys next week.